Implementing Agile requires something that most organizations have not been able to do. There are a few, but most organizations have not been able to do it. It requires that you change everything. You're not going to be able to get away with just changing a few pieces of your engineering process or your product development process and get the benefits that you're thinking of when you think of the benefits of Agile and that multiplier effect of being able to deliver faster than our competitors. There are a whole bunch of things that you need to consider. But if we want to talk about what's the fundamental things that you need to think about, you need to think about of the implications of a move from Tayloristic practices, I'll describe them in a minute, towards more holistic practices. And really the idea is that in the old days, there was a gentleman called Frederick Winslow Taylor. And Frederick Winslow Taylor did a time and motion study in a factory in the 1850s and came up with a whole bunch of a whole philosophy around delivering products, running companies, running factories. Some of it was not his deliberate intent, but it was the outcome that came out of those ideas. And really, it comes down to this fundamental piece, which is an interesting quote from Taylor himself. And it was, hardly a competent worker can be found that does not spend a significant amount of time figuring out just how slowly they can work and still convince their employer that they're going at a good pace. This is a fundamental premise of distrust. Okay? So the entire top-down hierarchical system that most organizations operate within, where you have steering at the top and the people doing the work at the bottom, you have the people making the decisions at the top and doing the work at the bottom, is predicated around this idea of distrust. We as leaders are much smarter than the people that are doing the work. Back in those days, that was mostly true, largely uneducated workforce, right? But the outcome, as the world changed, right, as we moved out of the Industrial Revolution and moved into the knowledge revolution, this flipped on its head. And quite often the people working in our organization, the people actually doing the jobs, are much smarter and more capable than the leaders in the organization, whose knowledge may be outdated, maybe just not as sophisticated as the knowledge of new people coming through into that profession. Not only, but it happens a lot, right? So as this knowledge became greater of the people doing the work, we then, as leaders, weren't leveraging their capability because we were effectively telling them what to do. We're steering the organization from the top, right? So if you think of a signal in our organization, a signal comes from the market. That's the way organizations function. There's a signal happens in the market, and then we need to change something. But in order for us to change something, that signal has to be painful enough that the people doing the work escalate that up the hierarchy in the organization. And it has to be painful enough and with enough signals at each level for it to move to the next level up the chain until it gets to somebody who it's effectively beneath them to solve the problem. So they'll tell the person below them just to go deal with it. So then the signal starts coming back down for this different way of working. How long does that take? How often have you sat on an issue and not escalated it because you think you can resolve it? How many days, weeks, or even months have gone by before that gets escalated to the next level up in order to do something about it? Overall, this system maximizes the amount of time it takes for us as a business to respond to changes in the market. And we need to respond more quickly. Like in the 1850s, markets were really sparse. There wasn't a lot going on. The textile factory in the UK was not competing with the textile factory in China, not to any meaningful degree. Okay, but today we're all competing with each other. The markets are massive, they're saturated, and they're global, which means in order for you to get the customer, you have to be providing the customer with the thing that they need when they need it. Otherwise, they'll go somewhere else. We need to respond really quickly to those changes, those things that happen in the market. And for that, we need the signal to not have to go all the way up the organization and all the way back down. There are many big organizations that are taking this on board, even to the extent of a really common thing that has to be escalated up the organization is purchases, right? As an employee, what is the maximum amount I can purchase? And I've worked with a large car manufacturer recently that just pushed any amount down to the lowest person in the organization. The lowest person in the organization working on the factory floor, running the machines, can make a purchase to any amount that is needed in order to solve a problem. They still have to justify it. They still need a business case. They need all of those things. But their purchase is not going to be blocked because they don't have that purchasing power. This came out of a massive cost for their business that resulted from not being able to take that decision, or really somebody higher up the chain deciding it's not in their budget for this year. So pushing that kind of responsibility down the organization can enable the people doing the work to make more of the right decisions. If they think about it like it's their own money, right? They spend it wisely. We're maximizing the change, the taking care of surprise that we do as an organization. And that's something that we need to be able to do in order to take advantage of opportunities or deal with disasters that happen in our business as quickly as possible. Because if we can do it faster than our competitors, we'll get the business, we'll get the capability, we'll expand, and they won't. So in order to move faster, and if you think about those things that I've been talking about, we need to move the decision making all the way down the chain to the people doing the work. We need the people doing the work to be able to respond directly to the market. And we need the people in the center of the organization, because it's not a pyramid anymore, right? The people in the center of the organization to be providing support for the people on the periphery who are actually dealing directly with the market. And that is a completely different way of doing business. Everything changes. And in fact, if you ask somebody like Microsoft, who have been in this journey to make this change, I'm not saying that they're the best in the world at it, but they're certainly a very large organization that is making moves towards this. They were asked what changed, and the answer is everything. I've got a list here of things that they changed. They changed milestones. They changed from horizontal teams to vertical teams. They changed from personal offices to team rooms, from long planning cycles to short iterative learning cycles, from having product management, developers and testers to having PM and engineering working together in consolidated teams, from yearly customer engagement to continual customer engagement, from feature branches to everybody working in the same place, from 20 plus person teams down to little high performing 8 to 12 person teams, from secret roadmaps that nobody knew what was going on to public roadmaps. How can we engage with the customer more? How can we be more open and engaging? From private to open in lots of different circumstances, from 100-page spec documents to mock-ups in PowerPoint and much smaller iterative cycles of building products, from deep organizational hierarchies. I don't know about you, but I used to work in Merrill Lynch and there were 16 people between me and the CEO. right? Think how many escalations and time that would take to get a signal all the way up there. So from deep hierarchies to flattening the structure and engaging with people in a different way. These different ways of working have massive implications for budgeting, for line management, for goal orientated strategic direction, massive implications across the entire organization. And I'm not going to say you're going to get there all at once. It's going to take time to get there. You probably do want revolutionary rather than evolutionary change, but you need to do it deliberately and with empathy with all the people involved so that they're on board and going in the same direction. So, leaders, you are the ones that need to be able to make these changes, to enable these changes in the organization, to support these changes in the organization. And for that, you're going to have to support changing everything in the organization, not just implementing a little bit of Scrum in a little team.